On a normal evening in 2009, a man gets home from work and boots up his computer. His name is Marcus Persson, but he often goes by his scene name, Notch. Based in Stockholm, Sweden, Persson spends his evenings developing passion projects, fun coding exercises that sometimes end up as completed video games but more typically become abandoned after a short time. But what he doesn't know is that the file he starts today will change the gaming industry forever and will make him one of the wealthiest Swedes in the world. This is the making of Minecraft. In the very beginning, the game that Persson was creating wasn't called Minecraft. It was called Ruby Donga, based on the two main elements of the game, the Ruby lands and the dungeons. It was going to be a fantasy group manager game where you didn't actually do any quests yourself, but rather assembled, equipped, and leveled up heroes to send them on quests you got from the local town. Persson created a texture atlas, essentially one large image file that contained lots of smaller textures. Initially, this atlas only contained two textures, grass and cobblestone. Using these elements, he created a digital landscape filled with trees. Next, Persson wanted to implement a first-person view of the heroes going on their quests. But quickly, he realized that it was becoming too pixelated and blurry. Frustrated that he couldn't get all of the features quite right, Persson scrapped the idea, not realizing that he had just created the first prototype for what would later become Minecraft. One major limitation was that he could only work on his games during his limited free time after his day job. He worked as a programmer at MapTiler, the Swedish game developer that would later go on to create Candy Crush. However, his bosses at MapTiler were unsupportive of Persson's hobby. Once they discovered that he was making his own games in his free time, they felt that there was a competing interest and barred him from continuing. But Persson couldn't be stopped. Rather than comply, he decided to quit his job to continue working on his passion projects. He found a new job with the software company Jalbum, where he befriended the CEO, Carl Monet. Jalbum was not a game studio but a company that made digital photo album software. Monet not only didn't mind what Persson did in his free time but actively encouraged him to continue designing games. At this point, Ruby Donga still sat on the shelf as a scrap project with little more development. That is, until April 2009, when Persson came across a new game that would change everything for him. The game was called Infiniminor. Infiniminor is a multiplayer game where players team up against others to dig blocks in search of minerals. As blocks are dug up, they can then be used to create structures that impede other teams. Though the objective of the game was to mine up more minerals than your opponents, players quickly abandoned that goal and instead realized it was much more fun to just build things. But despite the game's enormous potential, its development was plagued with difficulties. Zachary Barth, the original creator of Infiniminor, had intended to create a large network of players, but with the game's code constantly being modified and rewritten, the game soon fragmented its user base as different versions weren't compatible with each other. Frustrated, Barth decided to abandon the project, and the game's code became open source. The first time Persson tried Infiniminor, he immediately had an epiphany. This was the game he wanted to make, and he had lots of ideas on how he could improve it. He sat back down with the previously abandoned Ruby Donga and began tweaking it into the new vision he had. Reusing his existing textures, Persson took a full weekend to rework some of the coding and art style. He called his creation Cave Game, and with just a little more work, it became a working prototype. Now all he needed were players. He had a plan for where to find some early testers. Just a few weeks prior, Persson had joined an online indie game forum called TigSource, where developers could receive feedback from others on the games they were creating. Persson began discussing with others in the community, who quickly suggested a new name for the project, Minecraft. The name was chosen for the two main actions you could do in the game, mining and crafting. Though Persson would later drop the subtitle from the name, he decided that this forum would be the best place to start getting early players and immediate feedback on how he could continue developing the game. So, on May 17, 2009, Persson shared the first link that would allow others in the forum to begin playtesting the game. It was an alpha version, so there might be some crashes. Just 12 minutes after he posted the link, the first person provided feedback. "Oh hell, that's pretty cool. I just dug around in the ground a bit and suddenly I'm in this underground cave. Great sense of exploration." 3 minutes later, the next reply, "The animations are fantastic. It's generally really derivative at the moment of Infiniminor." Quickly, more and more people were downloading and providing feedback, and, above all, praise. Though the alpha was made for feedback, players couldn't resist posting about the things they had made. Since people were showing off screenshots of their creations, more and more were encouraged to jump in and try the game themselves. The community also had plenty of feedback for features that could make Minecraft even better, and Person was on it, updating his block nearly every day with progress on adding many of the ideas suggested. I plan on having several game modes: Creative, Survival, Team Survival, and Fortress. Though players were consistently finding the gameplay addictive, there was no way to save what they had built, no way to play with friends, or to play on maps that others had created. Person would often sit down with the intention to add these commonly requested elements to Minecraft, but would repeatedly get distracted due to the challenges of implementing multiplayer and instead would focus on more fun features. Eventually, multiplayer was introduced. Person realized the game could be much more than just a hobby. If it were going to continue to grow like this, it was time to put a price tag on it and go commercial. Though today it may seem completely normal that an indie developer sells their game rather than releasing it for free, this wasn't the case in the late 2000s. The expected practice was to release a game as freeware and make money through ads. Person, however, came up with a different plan. He designed his pricing to reward early adopters, and despite the warnings that people wouldn't pay for such a game, he started seeing an enormous influx of income that led to his PayPal account being frozen due to suspected fraud. It was enough that Person was able to change his status from full-time to part-time at Jalbum, allowing him to spend even more time developing Minecraft. Month after month, Person followed the same process, listening to feedback from players, implementing more features that were commonly requested, and fixing any bugs that were reported. He also, during this time, met Daniel Rosenfeld, a musician and sound engineer, who collaborated with Person to provide sound effects for Minecraft and produce the iconic soundtrack still used to this day. By 2010, sales of Minecraft had grown to the point where Person was able to quit his part-time job at Jalbum altogether, and it was clear that as Minecraft continued to expand, Person would need an actual business structure to handle the explosive growth. Since he was uninterested in actually running a business, he decided to call in some help. First was Jacob Porser, a friend and colleague from Person's old days at Midas Player. Second was Carl Monet, the former CEO of Jalbum. Together, the three established the company that would officially back Minecraft, Mojang. Person was no longer working from home but had built a small team. The game was still not officially finished, but it had already become immensely popular. By August 2010, Minecraft had grown enough to catch the attention of larger game development companies, such as Valve. Person was invited to a meeting at Valve's headquarters in Bellevue, Washington, and he accepted the invitation. During the meeting, the company offered him a position, but he decided to turn it down as his focus was solely on Minecraft. After the negotiations, Person joined a small gathering of people who had come because of his blog post. Just a little over 50 people turned up to hang out in a park, and this would go down as the very first Minecraft Con. By the end of 2010, Minecraft had reached over 700,000 sales. Minecraft was still technically not finished, though, it was still in its beta phase. Mojang's development team was close to finishing the actual release, and with so much hype already built around the game, they knew they needed some fanfare to go along with the game's launch. In November 2011, they hosted an official Minecon, this time an organized event with 4,500 attendees, featuring a DJ set by Deadmau5. This would lead to the grand finale of Minecon 2011, the official release of the game. Person stood by a large blocky lever on stage, and with one pull, Minecraft was officially launched as a finished project. Even though the game was now finished, the team continued working on it, releasing updates and adding new features. For Person himself, it was the end of a chapter. After 2 years of continuous work on Minecraft, he was ready to move on to other projects and get back to what he loved most, coding. Just 2 weeks after Minecraft's official release, Person decided to step down from his position as lead developer. Though Minecraft continued to flourish under Jens Bergensten's leadership, Person didn't get the rest he was hoping for. He was still perceived as the maker of Minecraft, and players continued to send any issues they encountered to him. He was flooded with complaints for a long time, which he tried to ignore until it finally came to a head in 2014. As the popularity of Minecraft exploded, an inevitable feature from players emerged: pay to win. Mojang had always allowed public servers to be created, but this opened the door for some to create servers where players had to spend money to gain an advantage. Mojang began cracking down on these servers, but the backlash was immense. Though Person was no longer working on Minecraft, he received the bulk of the criticism. In frustration, he sent out a tweet on June 17, 2014, "Anyone want to buy my share of Mojang so I can move on with my life?" Getting hate for trying to do the right thing is not my gig. The very next day, companies including EA, Activision, and Microsoft started reaching out to see if Person was serious about selling Mojang. After considering the offer, Person decided to go through with the sale, and Mojang was sold to Microsoft for $2.5 billion. As the major shareholder, Person became a billionaire overnight. In 2017, a series of racist and homophobic tweets from Person led to Microsoft distancing itself from him, scrubbing his name from the game and not inviting him to the 10th anniversary celebration of Minecraft. His tweets were undeniably harmful and have significantly impacted his legacy in recent years. While Person's story is inspiring in many ways, it is also a cautionary tale. There are few stories that highlight how powerful a good idea can be and how much creativity can flourish within constraints. Person created a world that many players find to be incredibly inclusive, and his creation has undeniably influenced generations of game developers to push boundaries and explore new ways to create interactive experiences. However, his journey also highlights the impact of unfiltered opinions and the consequences of unregulated power in the online world. Minecraft may have changed the gaming world, but Person's personal journey will be forever tied to both the triumphs and challenges that come with creating something that so many people love.